I'm really sorry. Tyler McGill.
Are you though?
No.
What's the deal with Jeff McNeil? What should happen with him? Does he have to go? 3, 2, 1.
Gotta
Yes.
go. He's useless in their lineup. He's a dead hole. He's dead weight. Jeff McNeil, when I look up at the TV and Jeff McNeil is at the plate, I look away. Nothing good is happening. Probably nothing's happening at all.
What are the Mets without Gary, Keith, and Ron?
I don't know, but it occurred in my mind before. You know how like you're a little kid and you like at some point realize that like your grandparents or your parents are probably going to die before you.
You
that
had
was
that
the
thought about
with
Gary, Keith, and Ron.
And I was like, oh my God, like what are we going to do? The Mets are never going to be the same. I like literally didn't stop thinking about it for 30 minutes. Now you're in this wild card race, which is crazy to say.
Like crazy to say.
Crazy to say. You have to make some decisions based on winning. They're young and they're fun. I mean,
Right.
Jeff McNeil is quite literally getting traded in for a new model. So,
Oh my God. Ashley. I mean, I'm no lies detected.
Everything's turned around. Great. Edwin Diaz gets ejected in the 9th inning. He doesn't throw a pitch. I need to take the wheel.
Because here's
This is Why Am I a Mets Fan? A podcast hosted by Samantha Croston and Ashley Wenskoski.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into episode 7 now, almost hard to believe, of the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. This is Ashley Wenskoski. I'm Samantha Croston, and we are sports reporters in Syracuse, New York, who give you inside insight into the facts, the fascination, and the farm behind the New York Mets. Right now, it is Sunday night. The Mets are playing against the Cubs. It is the third game and the last game of the series. They're up 3-0 heading into the top of the 5th. So we will continue to give you updates. And when you hear about their record and whatnot, please keep in mind that that is their record based on the fact that we don't know the end result of the game. This is what we do. We record on Sunday nights. But it's been an interesting week. The Mets are 3 games under 500 right now, 36-39, 2 games out of the wild card, and have won 8 of the last 10. It is one of the more positive episodes we've filmed.
Yeah, what a June for the Mets. I hope they come out of there with a win tonight. I would really like to see them win that series. The Cubs, not a great team this year. Kind of similar to the Mets, 3 games under 500. So I would really like another win. It'd be their 4th consecutive series win if they win this game tonight. Even if they don't, what a June.
Which is weird, though, because I agree. I remember looking up the records today and seeing Mets-Cubs, similar record. But, like, they don't feel like a similar team at all. In my mind, the Mets are miles ahead of the Cubs.
Yeah, I think it's because the Mets have just had so much momentum lately. Obviously, the hot
Recency
streak
bias.
this month, recency bias, yeah. And I think that brings us to our tweet of the week here from Sarah Langs. I love it. She said the Mets were tied for the worst record in Major League Baseball in May and currently have MLB's best in June. And then she went on to give a fun little fact here. Just 5 teams since 1900, the year 1900, have had the worst win percentage in a calendar month and then the best the next month. So this has been a little bit of a roller coaster ride with this team. I mean, let's excuse April, right? April's
Sure.
the first month of the season. You have a horrible May. You have a great June. What is this team? What's the true colors of this team? Are they the May Mets? Are they the June Mets? Are they somewhere in between?
That feels like a good title, so maybe we're going to hold on to that until later. But it's so true. It's like you wonder why Mets fans are so unstable. And I feel like that is the reason why. Like, this is why you end up feeling so disappointed, but the highs also feel so high. Also, shout out to Sarah Langs, because I really feel like she is just a stat goddess. Like, to pull those numbers from 1900, okay, wow. Also, brings us to our stat of the week. Beginning Friday, the Mets have a 17-game stretch without an off day that runs through the All-Star break. So certainly a lot of baseball to play. But like you mentioned, at the point and the state of mind that I'm at right now on this Sunday evening, I sort of feel that as long as the Mets can continue to win 2 out of 3, I will continue to feel in a pleasant mood.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with, right, Mets fans, I think the fan base got a little ahead of themselves and a little excited with the whole Grimace winning streak, 7 in a row. I mean, that was obviously... How could you not? Yeah. They're going to lose a game here and there, but I would say we have a very unique stretch here against bad teams. If you're going to be a team that makes that playoff run, that makes that wild card race, you need to win against bad teams. The Mets have done that in June. They didn't do that in May. So do you trust them? I don't know. It's a deeper question.
I don't know either, but I do feel like we are beyond the point of just feeling like they went on a run and that's all it was. Because again, yes, the Grimace era was something exciting. It was something specific. I even had, by the way, the night I was filling in for sports the last week, I had all in my block. I'm like, I'm going to do this Grimace is great, and all of these things, started putting everything into iNews, and then the Mets lost that night. So I was like, I missed my chance, and I was bummed about it.
Yeah, we actually did jinx them on our last episode, by the way. Yep. I will say the episode we put out midweek, they were 7-0, they lost that night. So is that our fault? I don't know. Don't blame us. Sorry.
It's hard to say, but we kind of just knew. I think we both sort of had a feeling the end of this era is coming, so let's put the episode out now. But anyway, I think the point remains that even beyond that, they've still continued to play good baseball. Like, even past the whole 7-game winning streak, sure, there were a few losses in there, but even against the Cubs, I felt encouraged based on what I saw. I felt encouraged based on the fact that the bats were batting. Now, I will say, it's still sort of that vibe where when they're losing, sometimes they will still lose significantly.
Yeah.
And I would prefer that the losses be just a little bit closer. Mm-hmm. But I do feel like, at least in the past month, when they are behind by a little bit, or when the game is tied, I feel more encouraged and inspired, and I have my belief back that they will win in those situations, or that they can win in those situations.
Yeah, I agree. I would be interested to see their run differential and the disparity there, actually, as you mentioned, because I feel like sometimes they win big, they lose big. Mm-hmm. I don't know. We can get into that another time, but I definitely would be interested to look at it. I just wanted to shout out our comment of the week real quick. James Buckley, we shouted him out last week, but I feel like we need to give him recognition because he's always leaving just great stuff in our comments of our episodes that make me think, I know must make other people think that see them. So he commented a day or two ago, he said the last 30 games in terms of the NL for the Mets, where they rank in terms of the National League in the last 30 games, they are first in batting average, second in home runs to the Dodgers, first in runs scored, first in on-base percentage, second in slugging to the Dodgers, and first in OPS. So the Mets have had a ripper of a month offensively. It's not just us. It's not just the Grimace era. Like, best team in the NL in many of these categories.
And that's the thing. It's like, they're truly, the Grimace era was a part of it, but I really even feel like in the national conversation, like, everyone is talking about the Mets right now and how great of a month that they've had. Now, granted, we're just going to have to see what happens in the future. You mentioned the fact that you think right now they're beating bad teams. I don't know. Do you think that that's all they're capable of? Or do you feel like you're really seeing a different Mets team than you saw a month ago? What's it going to take to convince you that this is truly the new real Mets?
I think it's a dual-ended answer. I think the Mets, we pointed this out in one of our earlier episodes, have one of the easiest schedules in baseball up until the All-Star break. They play one team currently over 500. That is the Yankees, who they play this week. Is that a blessing in some senses? Sure. Gives them an opportunity to turn around the season, get in that wild card race. Is it a curse for other reasons? Yes, it is. Because if you have one of the easiest stretches of the season and one of the easiest stretches in baseball heading into that All-Star break, I don't know. Maybe you do get disillusioned. Maybe this team is not as good as their June record because they're playing bad teams. Your dad pointed this out on his episode, and I thought it stuck with me ever since. I think about it a lot.
I already know what you're saying.
Yes, that they have to, it's not enough to get to the wild card series. The question has to be here at some point. Can this team realistically beat the Phillies, beat the Dodgers, beat the best teams in the National League in the playoffs? I don't know what the answer is to that right now.
Me neither.
No one knows what the answer is to that right now. Steve Cohen doesn't know what the answer is to that right now. But I think that the bad team thing is the only thing, not to always have that Mets hater piece in my mind, because I am trying to be optimistic, but it's the only thing that's making me hesitate about this June of a lifetime that they've been having, because it's not against good teams. They haven't, in my mind, yet proven themselves against better competition this year, and they won't until after the All-Star break. So that's the catch-22.
Yep.
It's the dangerous thing, and that's just the way the schedule is. So that's what we're going to have to work with until then.
Yeah, would love to know, and perhaps this will be our question of the week. Thank you, as always, for the comments. We have already eclipsed 500 subscribers, so we're really appreciative of all the support that everyone has been giving to this podcast. But I would love to know where all of you are feeling at this point. Do you feel like the Mets should be competing for a playoff run here? Should they be selling off some pieces? What do you think should be happening here? What do you want to see for the future? I do think it's interesting. We have here as a discussion topic what's going to happen as far as Christian Scott. Will he be back? Is McGill out? Obviously, McGill, his last time out, not a great showing. A bad showing, actually. And we see from Anthony DiComo that he says, although the Mets aren't committing to anything, there is a good chance, according to his report, that Christian Scott returns to the rotation during that 17-game stretch that we told you about. At the same time, I see you wrote this down from Mike Puma. I think this is an interesting point based on what you were saying earlier. He says, one sense I've gotten from Mets people, they're open to potentially trading starting pitchers ahead of the deadline and still competing for the postseason. With Kodai Senga, Christian Scott, Jose Butto, they are seen as possible rotation adds. I guess that's something that we haven't talked about a lot on this podcast. Is there any way, and maybe this is one of them, where they can do both? Like, can they sell off some pieces and still be able to compete? I guess it's possible.
I think if you had to ask me right now, gun to my head, I think that's the most likely scenario for them at the deadline. I think there is a world, and when I read that Mike Puma bit, that's kind of got the wheels turning in my head.
Sure.
I think there is a world where they have a lot of starting rotation depth all of a sudden. I'm not exactly sure where it came from. It's not guys that pop off the page. It's not guys that are going to win a Cy Young, but it's guys that can give serviceable starts and have been in the last month or two. So with that said, it's a seller's market, especially for starting pitchers. There are going to be teams interested in that depth that they have. Now, what I think is interesting about the situation is the Mets are kind of managing Christian Scott's innings this year because he is in that rookie season, if you want to call it. So, they've been managing them in AAA. Some of his starts have been, kind of 4 or 5 inning starts because they don't want him to get too high in that innings count. At the same time, I think you have to, now you're in this wild card race, which is crazy to say.
Crazy to say.
You have to make some decisions based on winning. And my opinion is Tyler McGill's got to go. I'm really sorry. Tyler McGill.
Are you, though?
No. Tyler McGill.
You really don't have to be.
Tyler McGill. Listen, Tyler McGill is a guy I've wanted to root for. Mama McGill on Twitter. She's great.
We will continue to root for Mama McGill.
I root for him. I want him to have success, but I just can't justify having him in this rotation with a 4.81 ERA through 7 starts when there are so many other guys that have given the Mets good quality innings. Christian Scott among them. Jose Butto sent back down to AAA. He's been doing well. He has a 3.13 ERA in AAA this year. Kodai Senga is going to come back after the deadline. Tyler McGill, I'm really sorry. Maybe the bullpen's a better fit for you.
Out of all of them, it seems like he's the one where you just want to ship him off and see what can happen. Also, again, for an injury update, and this is via Anthony DiComo yet again, he still isn't expected to return until after the All-Star break, but he did throw a 22-pitch live batting practice session today in Port St. Lucie, Florida. That is still true. That's today as in Sunday.
Yes.
Okay. Marking his first time facing hitters since early May. So they also think that it is possible that he will do that one more time at the end of this week. It's progress. It's not perfection. There's still some time before he comes back in. But it is an X factor. You forget about him for a while, and then you remember, oh my God, Senga still hasn't even been a part of this team. It does make you wonder when we talk about all the pieces who have been added back. And I think I actually had that as a stat, so I'm going to flip back around to it. I was thinking in my head about Alvarez, and I have it right here. Since April 5th, the Mets are 18-3 when Francisco Alvarez plays, 17-31 when he does not. We did mention that stat earlier in our Wednesday episode, but since then it's as astonishing still as it was then, even a few games beyond that. There are some players on this team where you really feel like having them back could be game changing.
Yeah.
To what extent, I don't know, but I think Senga's one of those guys where you wonder about what can happen and how having him back, what kind of difference will that make? I think significant. I really do.
I think significant. One of the best ERAs in the NL last year. One of the best ERAs in all of baseball last year. There is a question, right? He is coming off injury. So you have to be hesitant there a little bit. But I would like to say that it'll have a positive impact on the rotation. I think that the most likely scenario for the Mets is trading off a starter or two to build some pieces, not only for the future, but maybe for this deadline run. Maybe they're selling a little bit, buying a little bit. Maybe they're not putting all of their eggs in one basket, which I think is what Mets fans probably would be the happiest with in terms of, bartering what you have for what you need more of. I think it's interesting to point out that Severino, Sean Manaea, and Jose Quintana all become the top candidates to kind of get traded off because all three of those guys are on one-year deals. Now, do I think they trade Luis Severino? Absolutely not. If they're in the hunt for this wild card, he's been their best pitcher so far. I think he stays. Sean Manaea, hasn't been great. He's been okay. He hasn't been terrible. I don't really know what the market would be like for him. Quintana kind of elevated his stock because he had a really good start on Friday. He's not dumb. He knows that some of these guys are in the pipeline. So that starting rotation right now, 5-man, 6-man, whatever they're going to go with before the All-Star break, is a competitive thing to have a spot in that rotation. In my mind, Tyler McGill no longer fits, and I think it's likely that Christian Scott comes back up. I think it's likely one or two of those guys aren't on the team come the trade deadline.
Do you think that by the 4th of July, the Mets are going to be back at 500?
What day is it? What's the date?
At this point, it is June 23rd.
Yeah, I mean, if they win tonight, they're 2 games under, right? I think they will be.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And I do feel like that's the number where everybody said, this is what I would be happy with. So keep that in mind. Like, that's how close they are to that number. But you're right. Like, that point that my dad had made, it makes you wonder, because it does feel like the worst case scenario would be if we said, and the Mets organization says, screw it, let's go all in.
Yeah.
Just to make it to that wild card round and have a repeat of 2022. Like, nobody wants that.
No.
Like that, but it's also very hard, I think, as an owner, as a decision maker in the Mets organization, to convince people to have that sort of sight and vision when everybody is so excited right now, us included, you know?
Yeah. I think David Stearns is smarter than that, and I think Steve Cohen is smarter than that. All I can tell you is, since your dad said that, shout out Mike Croston, I have not stopped thinking about that, because that's so true. I don't think that they're going to full on buy or full on sell. I think it will be somewhere in the middle, a mixture. At the same time, you have to have that in your head. What's the point if this team can't beat the Phillies? What's the point if this team can't beat the Dodgers? Now, they can only prove that in the second half. So we'll have to see, but it's kind of going to be too late by the time we have to see. So I wouldn't want to be David Stearns right now. I'll just say that.
It really, tough time to have the name David Stearns. Yeah, no doubt about it. And another thing, we wrote this down kind of just in a conversation even off the air that we've been having. I know other people are thinking about this too. What's the deal with Jeff McNeil? What should happen with him? Does he have to go? 3, 2, 1.
Gotta go. I need Jeff McNeil gone. I'm really sorry, Jeff. You gave us some great years.
Yeah.
I can't deal with Jeff McNeil anymore. It's not only the stats, which are horrific, by the way. I didn't even realize how bad this was.
Spit them out.
Okay. Jeff McNeil has the 3rd lowest OPS, which is on base plus slugging, among qualified hitters. 3rd lowest in the majors. He also has the worst win probability added, which is WPA if you're into stats. Worst in the majors, negative 2.14. That means he's lowering the Mets win probability. He is hitting .215 with 3 home runs, 15 RBI, and this is what is just astonishing to me. A .282 on base percentage. I mean, he's useless in their lineup. He's a dead hole. He's dead weight. Jeff McNeil, when I look up at the TV and Jeff McNeil is at the plate, I look away. Nothing good is happening. Probably nothing's happening at all.
And mind you, as far as the Syracuse Mets section, which we get to later in the show, but Ashley and I did attend a Syracuse Mets game last week.
Yeah.
So fun, by the way.
Yeah.
Shout out, as always, to Jason Smorrell, because he gave us some free vouchers, and we truly had just a delightful time on a Thursday.
They have Chick-fil-A now.
They have Chick-fil-A now. They also had dollar beers, but it didn't even matter because we had the voucher.
We weren't working.
We weren't working. Can we all be real, bro? We weren't working. We just went as fans, you guys, okay? But Brett Beatty was there. He was playing second.
Yeah.
It had us thinking about this podcast and the kinds of things we wanted to say, because that's one of those things when you just talk about roster moves and what kinds of things do you want to see, who are people sick of. I'm interested to see what happens with that. And I would not be opposed at all to the idea of having, or at least giving Beatty a shot. Obviously, also, Iglesias has been just overperforming, to say the least.
Yeah.
But I just don't love Jeff McNeil at that position right now.
I don't love Jeff McNeil is just a dead spot, and then I just don't love his attitude. I mean, we've talked about this before, but the throwing things, he's just so dejected. I don't know how it gets better for him. The biggest thing that stuck out to me is that he's actually not getting better this season. He's getting worse. Now, is that a testament to the grind of the Major League Baseball season and how tough it is? And he knows the pressure, New York, he knows he's not doing well, right? But his last 30 games, he's hitting 191. His last 15 games, he's hitting 156. And his last 7 games, he's hitting 150. So that average is actually going down over the last month. Has had a decrease in playing time with Iglesias taking up some of that time. Iglesias is hitting 435 at bats, so a really small sample size. But Iglesias, I think, has energized the Mets beyond just at the plate. We've talked about this.
OMG, Candelita.
First of all, we were on the beat of Candelita before the mainstream media.
It bothers me that nobody knows that. I wish
know.
this podcast was bigger so that people could understand how soon we found out about that. Like, we should have broke it as breaking news or something, because we really knew about it before even SMY was discussing it.
We knew about Candelita before everyone else. I just need everyone to know that. When Mike Vassell was in here, he told us about his songs, his music, and now the Mets are singing his hit single, OMG, every time they hit a home run. And I'm like, you know who knew about OMG 2 months ago? Me. Us.
No, it's so true. I do feel like that was the first thing where I was like, wow, we're really hearing about relevant, exciting things, because you saw that happen. But yeah, obviously, he is someone who is doing great. And I wonder how much people think about this, but I'm even just saying this as a former athlete. Like, it is very, very, very tough once you know that you're already on the chopping block.
Yeah.
Like, the playing time is already being stripped away little by little. He doesn't have a great attitude as it is. He can probably feel the fact that the fan base is not 100% behind him.
Totally.
This isn't a Lindor is slumping, so we're all going to give him a standing ovation and everything's going to be great again situation. Like, there's not the same level of love there. So on top of that, for him to see the fact that, hey, this is the situation, we don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to start taking some playing time away, mentally, like, that's a challenge. That's a lot to overcome. There have been other players where there's been issues, but there's never been a doubt. There's never been a doubt about their place in the lineup, or even Diaz. I felt like when there was an issue going on with him, you know, the question would be, yes, is this still going to be your closer? And it was always an overwhelming yes. Like, the confidence, the support was still there.
Yeah.
With McNeil, I just don't get that same energy.
With McNeil, I would say, I think Mets fans did appreciate those years that he was great. He won a batting title a couple years ago, but I think the fan base is done with him because this is the second year of this. He was not good last year. This is, worse this year. He's not productive, and to add to the non-productiveness, they have more infielders than they need to have. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So with Beatty, moving him to second base, Beatty, I think, is pretty much writing on the wall that they know what's happening there with Vientos and with Beatty, and they have to find a spot for one of them. It is what it is. I don't see the Mets being very willing right now to part with Beatty or Vientos at the deadline or in the near future. I could be wrong on that. They could literally trade Brett Beatty in a month, but I don't see that happening. I think both of those guys, they know there's untapped potential there, and they're not ready to, they're ready to ride out Beatty and Vientos much longer than they're ready to ride out a slumping 32-year-old Jeff McNeil.
When you put it that way, damn. No, listen,
Sorry, Jeff McNeil. Didn't mean to come for you like that.
But I am inclined to agree with you.
Yeah.
And beyond that, like, when we talk about the fact that with Jeff McNeil, he just doesn't quite align with the culture, I think from what we've seen, witnessed with our own eyes in Syracuse, but also seen on the TV when we're watching SNY, Mark Vientos and Brett Beatty really do have that Mets culture. Yeah. They feel like they could be lifers, and you wouldn't be surprised to hear that.
But they're young and they're fun. Jeff McNeil is quite literally getting traded in for a new model. So,
oh my God. Ashley. I'm no lies detected, so I understand where you're coming from. We're moving on to Starling Marte. He's hurt right now.
Yeah, not funny.
Less funny. Wait, look, Ashley loves Starling. We all love Starling.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. He was removed from Saturday's game with right knee soreness after running out a ground out. He will be examined when the team gets back to New York. At this point, we are just hoping that he is not lost to the IL, because of many reasons. Among them, he has done a pretty good job hitting. But we just don't want to lose anyone to the IL. We just hope he's okay.
Yeah, he struggled with those knees in the last few years, so I hope truly it's not a bigger issue. At the same time, Carlos Mendoza said today on Sunday that he is feeling a little better even today, so hopefully it's not an IL situation because he's definitely one of the more consistent hitters in that lineup that I think they need if they're going to make a playoff push.
Let's get a little score update.
Oh,
what's going on with the Mets right now?
I forgot about them for a second.
Yeah.
It is...
I forgot about that.
Because I'm ranting.
I was talking about them so much.
It is 4-0. I think Lindor hit another home run.
All right.
Did he? Wait, let me click on the video. Sorry, pause.
Oh, that's okay. I'll find something to talk about in the meantime. Good time to tell you that you can find us on all of our social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter. I mean, we're on YouTube, as you obviously know. You can listen or watch. Our handle is @YMetsPod, and we record these episodes every Sunday, sometimes more frequently, depending on whether we have a guest or we feel like ranting about something in a obnoxious way, or we just feel like we can't hold it in anymore. Let's go back to the score update.
It's 4-0. I actually don't have phone service in this little cave that we record this in, so I'm not sure why.
Great.
But they are winning, and I feel pretty confident at this point that they're going to take the series from the Cubs, and I'm very happy about that.
You know what? I do too, and that's a bold thing I feel like to say with
Yeah.
the time that this is at in the night. But I really do feel that way. I felt good even going into today. I thought they're gonna take this series.
Yeah.
Final thoughts on the Mets in general, on the place that they're at, on what you want to see in the future.
Final thought, actually currently today, is just about Sunday Night Baseball. I would like to say that I love Sunday Night Baseball. I love when they play late at night. I'm always a late advocate. I don't want to watch them at 1 p.m. on a Sunday. I want to watch them at 8 p.m. on a Sunday. However, that means that there's no Gary, Keith, and Ron. And when there's no Gary, Keith, and Ron, I am a little bit...
I'm hurt.
And I'm still very interested in the game, but I'm just a little bit less inclined to be attached to the TV because Gary, Keith, and Ron are not bringing it to me. Also, I had a horrible thought this week, and this is going to ruin your day. Are you ready for it?
No, but I'm as ready as I can be with the one-liners that you've already spat out.
Yeah. We are, God willing, I'd like to stay alive for a while. I'm sure you would too. We're going to have to see the Mets through the end of Gary, Keith, and Ron. We're going to have to watch the Booth retire, and we're going to have to move on to someone else.
I mean 100%, yeah. But we can't even it's not that I don't know that is inevitable, but it's that I just see that as something far away. Like to me that, and I know that's probably not, that might not even be true.
Yeah.
But in my mind, what are the Mets without Gary, Keith, and Ron?
I don't know, but it occurred in my mind before. You know how you're a little kid and you at some point realize that your grandparents or your parents are probably going to die before you.
You had that thought
with Gary, Keith, and Ron. And I was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? The Mets are never going to be the same. I literally didn't stop thinking about it for 30 minutes.
Wait, that's so funny. I also am curious. I mean this genuinely because I'm not even sure how I feel. I think it's really tough when you're used to Gary, Keith, and Ron for anyone else to go in there and for people to be like, that guy did a great job.
Yeah.
But what did everybody think about Steve Gelbs and his play-by-play? I don't know how I feel. I honestly was seeing that a lot of people were ragging on him. I actually didn't think that he did a terrible job. I think people completely underrate, and I could say this as us being broadcasters, underrate how hard that is to call a baseball game start to finish, because Gary, Keith, and Ron make it look and feel so easy and so natural, but it's hard to do.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, I think Steve's gotten a lot better in that play-by-play role. I think he's gotten a lot better in the sideline role than when he took over for Kevin Burkhardt all those years ago. I think Steve's great. At the same time, like you just said, it's really hard to just pop into that role for a couple games. I think he's gotten a lot better, but he's not Gary. That's the problem. Nobody's ever going to be Gary again. So I'll leave you all with that horrible existential thought because it makes me want to die.
No one's going to be Gary. And this is just a thought I just want to say once, and then I think sometime, when we have some downtime or during the All-Star break, we should just get into this one day, just maybe even a little mini segment.
Yeah.
How about Kevin Burkhardt? What kind of a weird story is that? Right?
Yes.
Would be just an interesting guest.
We'll hold on that. Just wanted to point that out. Up next for the Mets, off day Monday, and then the Subway Series. Giddy up.
Yankees traveling to the Mets Tuesday and Wednesday. They're off Thursday. The Astros come to town for 3 on the weekend. And as you guys know, that 17-day stretch is up and coming. I'm so excited for them to play the Yankees. It's the perfect time.
Me too. On my point earlier about they
Go
need
ahead.
to prove it to me against a good team, a game or two against the Yankees would not hurt, specifically 2.
That's a good team. Over to the Syracuse Mets. They finished 4 games behind Omaha for the first half International League title. If you're curious about that whole first half, second half, obviously check out our episode from a couple days ago because Ashley did break down exactly how the playoffs work in AAA. It's really kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But you were also there and you have a few things to share.
Yes, basically, they could still win the second half, could still make the playoffs, but they cannot host it anymore because Omaha won that first half. They've been doing really well, though, this season. This is their best season in about 10 years. Since 2014, they have not had as good of a record. Beatty, Acuna, Ritter, I mean, it's because they're a talented team with a lot of pieces on that team that could, see the majors or already have all been hitting really well. Acuna especially has been heating up lately. Today he had his 19th multi-hit game of the season, which leads the Syracuse Mets. He was 3 for 3. And I got a chance to catch up with Syracuse Mets manager Dick Scott, kind of just on Acuna, on Beatty, but on the whole thing, on the team and their first half performance and what he'd like to see in the second half. So we're going to play that for you right now. Enjoy. So much has been made about the lineup this year. You guys are hitting well, but the starting pitching has really put it all together too. Mike Vassal's having a great season. Buto tonight. Just what can you say about your starters and keeping you in games?
Yeah, I mean, our starters have given us 5 or 6 innings for quite a few games in a row, and it really takes the pressure off the bullpen. With that said, though, we have arms in the bullpen that can come in and shut the game down. So we're really in a nice spot right now. Our starters are giving us innings, and the nice thing about that is we get to give guys a day or 2 off before they have to come back in out of the bullpen again. So we got a nice rotation going.
Beatty continuing to tear the cover off the ball. Just what can you say about his progression, since he's been back down here?
Yeah, I think Brett, he feels pretty good about where he's at. I know he'd like to feel a little bit better and just get a really good, confident run going where if he got called back up, he's going to go up there with all the confidence that he needs. He's a good player. He's a good hitter. He's been playing very well at third base. So I think he's got a little ways to go on that, and I think he realizes it. We played him some at second base as well, which is a new position. But, he's embraced that as well. You just do whatever he can to get back to the big leagues.
What can you say about how he's mentored, the younger guys, sharing the field with Acuna, mentored some of those guys who have never seen the big leagues? Just what has that influence been like?
Yeah, I think we've been lucky this year because we had like Jose Iglesias, who 11-year Major League veteran, lands on our AAA team and was a real leader here. Yolmer Sanchez is that way. Trace Thompson's that way. So we're very fortunate to have guys that like to play because sometimes those guys can get a little salty when they come here. They don't want to be in AAA more than the young guy who's here for the first time. But they were great. They, not only took care of their business, but looked out for the other guys. And I think it's been fantastic, honestly.
Last question for you. Luke Ritter has been absolutely on a tear this year in the middle of your lineup, and it's an interesting discussion, right? If he, gets called up, gets to see any time up there in a DH role or something, just what can you say about him and how he's come into this season?
Yeah, he's worked really hard, and you look up, he's driven in 53 runs, I think, 16 homers, and at some point he's just they're gonna have to look at him and go, okay, what do we have with this guy? And I hope that he does force their hand. I hope he keeps playing well like I do all the other guys, but he got hurt at the end of last season after hitting 27 homers between AA and AAA, and he just keeps getting better. He plays first, second, third. He's played the outfield for us, so I hope it continues. Like all the guys, we'd like to see him get the opportunity.
And first half altogether, all wrapped up, who has surprised you the most, or what position group, I guess, if it's not a who?
Well, I think the thing that's surprised me a little bit, comparatively speaking, is just the attitude that our guys have had. And I know I'm sound like a broken record here, but AAA is a really hard place to gather a group of guys. You have your players coming from the organization that you've kind of raised, and you expect them to behave a certain way. You sign 10 or 12 minor league free agents, and you really never know what you're going to get. And I've said this, I think I said it to you the other time that you were here, is that our front office did a great job at getting good players, but good character players. And it's taken a lot of the load off the coaches. And that's probably the thing that I'm most pleased about. There's been a lot of guys that have had good halves here, and I expect that to continue.
Last question here
You
for
said
you.
that
I
already.
swear. Sorry. I'm on overtime here.
That's all right.
Acuna, what have you seen from his development this spring?
Yeah, just really improved. Struggled early in the year, struggled with cold weather, never played in cold weather. He's super athletic. His at-bats are slowing down some. He's taking some walks. We're not asking him to walk, but a better strike zone gives you the opportunity to see more pitches, and the walk is a byproduct of that. And he's been hitting the ball hard. Hit the ball, to left field, right field. And when that guy's on base, he's disruptive. I mean, he's very fast, steal bases, score from first on a ball in the gap, and also playing three very difficult positions, shortstop, second, and center field. And he's done fantastic. So a lot of improvement from him, and he's working hard. Adrian Texador is our infield coach. He's worked with him, and he's just improving every day.
Okay, that was Syracuse Mets manager Dick Scott. It's his second season as manager with this team, have one of their best years in a while. I will say, just from our perspective, and just being able to do that for work is really cool for us. I feel like you would agree, like just getting to go in and like interview him, and you could probably see there on his like whiteboard, seeing the starters like Vassell, Dom Hamill, like listed out. I'm like, this is really cool. Like, I feel like a little mini Mets insider, even though I'm absolutely not. But just like getting to talk to him here in Syracuse is cool.
A Syracuse Mets insider?
A Syracuse Mets insider, the only one that exists.
No, I totally agree. And honestly, for anyone who has never made the trip up to Syracuse, NBT Bank Stadium, and I really don't feel that I even say this with Syracuse bias, like it really is it's just a beautiful stadium. It's a beautiful ballpark. So if you're ever up in Syracuse, go check it out, go visit. It's a fun way to spend a Thursday afternoon.
Totally.
Outside of that, I think that's all we have for you for this week. Again, follow us anywhere at WhyMetsPod. Let's hope that the Mets win tonight. We record this every Sunday. It's a Sunday night now. Other than that, we will plan to see you next week. Welcome back to Why Am I a Mets Fan? We're back on Sunday night at 10:36, hours after we recorded the episode, because Edwin Diaz is in some trouble, my friends. He just got ejected in the game against the Cubs because the umps found some sticky stuff on his hands. So you know what me and Ashley did? We strapped on our boots and we came back to this set because we decided we had more to say.
A lot. I am so sick of the Mets. I am in such a toxic relationship with the Mets.
Compared to a few hours ago.
And this is
LOL
like
Mets.
the beginning of this episode is going to be me being like, everything's turned around. Great. Edwin Diaz gets ejected in the ninth inning. He doesn't throw a pitch. I need to take the wheel.
Because the thing is, I gotta be honest. I mean, you saw it. You said it looked like his hands were sticky. Yes, like.
Let me paint a picture for everyone.
I'd love that because you are an artist. So.
Sam, thank you. Sam is news anchoring because we have a real job also today.
Right.
Sam's news anchoring.
Right.
She's in the middle of the show.
Sure.
I walk in to do my little sports block. It's like 10:20. I prance in my little studio and I'm like,
Sneezes.
Sam sneezes kind of violently.
Like really violently.
And I'm like, Sam, guess what? Boy, do I have news for you.
And when Ashley gets in her eyes, like they almost start tearing up, like she's about to start crying, but she's smiling, I know something really effed up happened.
And she's like, what? Like, did they lose? Like, she knew they were winning. No, the answer is Edwin Diaz was ejected from the game, and now he's probably facing a 10-game suspension, and the Mets are going to be without their closer for 10 more games before the All-Star break.
It's upsetting for a lot of reasons, but a few things that stick out right away. He really didn't. I did see the video clip after on SNY. Like, he didn't really put up that much of a fight. It really looked like he did do that, which is unfortunate. So tough. And it's just like, I just feel like that's not what Mets culture is all about, man. Like,
why would he do? All right. We don't know what happened. Okay?
We don't know.
To be fair,
you're right.
David Cohn was on the ESPN broadcast, and he was actually defending Diaz. But now ESPN zoomed in on his little hand. His hand did not look good. I will just tell you that right now. It looked like there was
shiny
stuff on his hand, like actual like gray stuff that you could see. But David Cohn on the broadcast, who would know, was like, that could be anything. That could be rosin. That could be the rosin bag. Like, also, to the announcer's point, like, Diaz has to be smarter than that. Closers get checked constantly. Diaz is probably getting checked before nearly every save or all the time. So for him to do that would be a really dumb decision. Could it have been rosin? Could it have been dirt? Totally. Yumps didn't think so.
And at this point, now we wait for the appeal because we're assuming that he'll appeal. But it went like looking ahead, that changes a lot.
Yeah.
I hope that things go in a different direction because we even talked about this on the last podcast episode. 2 things that we both think are extremely important: a good catcher and a good closer. And you have Alvarez back, and we really thought we kind of had Diaz back. Like those were 2 big pieces of the puzzle that you didn't quite have, that since you have had, really turned things around. It really feels like it puts a big wrench in the whole thing. If you don't have a closer, like this whole operation, this whole Grimettes, this whole exciting stretch, I don't know. I do not know.
I mean, even tonight, right? They hold on to win 5-2, but the minute Diaz gets taken out, I see Drew Smith running out of the bullpen, and I'm like, Drew Smith. Like, I don't want Drew Smith to be in the game. Like,
Jump
God,
scare.
There's no one. We've crossed this bridge before. There's no one else that I feel confident closing games for this team. So I don't feel good. Damper on the, it really is just every time they do something good, every time you get a little excited about this team, they have to do something to ruin your night.
It's like the highs and the lows. I don't know that there are too many other fan bases that would understand it. I was talking to a Jets fan the other day. I guess that is similar, at least last year. But damn, dude, you need to be a special kind of person to be able to ride the ups and the downs, because it's like they won, but the hope, I mean, it's stripped from your eyes. I don't. Yeah. You look pretty hopeless right now.
My headphones.
I'm gonna say something insane.
Yeah.
Just to I just want to say it just in case. Like we would need to see like a year or 2 years down the road from this. It's not even a positive take, but I guess I have 2 positive takes. The first one would be, what if it really wasn't sticky stuff?
Yeah,
so what if it gets appealed
possible.
and then everybody can just calm
down.
down? But if
Calm down.
But if it's not that, this is crazy, but I'm just going to say it. For the amount that we talk about the fact that this run could be a real run, it could be a fake run, and we don't know what's going to happen after the break. What if because of this, the Mets do have some sort of a breakdown, so they do sell all the pieces away, and because of that, their long-term success is higher?
What if this was the turning point?
What if this was the turning point?
But see, this is so unhealthy. This is like, but Mets fans do this. Like, I was just looking at Mets Twitter, and other people were like, what if this was the day that it's all over now? And like, it's so unhealthy. We're not well.
Oh,
you
my
might ask
God.
yourself, why? Why am I a Mets fan?
And then you come to this podcast because it's the best name for a podcast that anyone's ever created. Shout out to our boss, Sean Carroll. I think that's all I have to say. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I have nothing else.
At that point, so we're just going to cut the cameras. We'll put this somewhere in the episode. We'll see you the next time we see you. But please just let us know. You know what to do in the comments. Let us know how you're feeling if you're a Mets fan. Thanks. Bye.